Good afternoon, and welcome to another ironic introduction to another video. Today I'm going to be doing a rundown and counterplay suggestion versus Psychic Thorns. I have some champion recommendations for taking on this path, as well as I'm going to acknowledge that this path might be potentially bugged, even though I personally believe that it is not, except for maybe one of the recommendations for bugs here. Psychic Thorns is whenever the defender is struck with a physical contact attack, the attacker takes 30% of the defender's attack as direct damage. Striking the defender with any non-contact attack heals the attacker for 50% of the damage dealt. Now, when I think this, my instinct is that does this apply to things like chains and whips, Ghost Rider, or Omega Red's tentacles? And that's actually commented here on the bugs. So really quick, let me go over the potential bugs that I don't think are bugs, and I'll explain why I don't. So Mirage Noir here brought Black Widow in, and he jumped in because Black Widow's signature ability has worked previously against all Thorns damage, but isn't working against the Psychic Thorns, because theoretically every hit should reduce the ability accuracy. Now, the reason I don't think this works here is because it's a Psychic Thorns, and so Black Widow's ability accuracy might just be, this might be like one of those, it was made an exception to, and that the ability can't be reduced by physical hits because it's Psychic. And if that's the case, I would like to see that in the description, because then it's not really clear. There's no, reason for why we would believe Black Widow's ability doesn't work here besides the word psychic in the description. But I do believe that this is intentional. I think they want any physical attack to deal damage back to the attacker, and they really want you to counterplay this with other counterplay methods, which I'll discuss at the end of this video. Additionally, this person used Void, and he didn't heal back from his SP1. And Void's SP1 is he throws out kind of like spikes from the ground as well as a ball of Void. And I wonder if these are considered physical because they're making direct contact. Again, these aren't psychic abilities. And I just wonder if these are abilities that are, because they're red, we view them as psychic slash energy, but maybe they're not. I have no way of really testing this. I do think that this one might be a bug. I just don't play Void enough to put my own value input here, but I do see this one as potentially being a bug. But moving on, Omega Red in particular's tentacles take damage, and I don't think this is like Korg's Thorn armor, where when you hit him with tentacles or whips, etc., it bypasses the thorns. I believe that whips, chains, tentacles, these things do make physical contact with the defender, right? There is an object hitting the defender, and so I believe that you're taking damage from that because it's not like a laser, a gunshot, it's not anything of those sorts. Actually, gunshots might even make you take damage as well. Like it might be things strictly like repulsors from Iron Man Infinity War or Ebony Maw, or I have some other suggestions which I'll talk about again in a moment. But that being said, this really drastically reduces your pool of champions, and it almost puts you in a situation where there's no way to bypass this node completely. And I actually think this is intentional. So when I talk about handling this node, this isn't like a poison immune or a bleed immune node. I think this is a new attempt at a node that forces you to play around it mechanically as well as with a specific champion roster. So champions that I think are good for this, just off the top of my head, are Ebony Maw, Emma Frost, Iron Man Infinity War, perhaps any other champion. Like I think Hyperion, Mordo, I believe these champions would probably be very good. I'm not entirely sure if Symbiote Supreme counts, because I'm not sure if his claw attacks are technically like telepathic, just because they do energy damage, I believe. But at least everyone before that. And so like starting with Ebony Maw, he strictly says that his attacks are energy, and I believe with this new node being introduced right after Ebony Maw, I think that this is like an attempt at making Ebony Maw better than he is, which is unfortunate because then you're stuck bringing Ebony Maw into war, and no one wants to be in that position. Iron Man Infinity War, I believe a lot of his damage would be considered, within the psychic realm of at least not being direct contact, such as his repulsors or his specials. And because you gain more health than you lose, theoretically, you can really mitigate a lot of the damage with slow play, as well as just healing more if you can. But champions that I think really crush this node, for example, would be Emma Frost. I think Emma Frost has kind of a low attack rating when she's hitting into the defender. And so I know you're taking damage based on the attacker, but because she has that improved defense, you should be able to mitigate a lot of that. And then she has such a high amount of special damage in the form of psychic abilities that you will heal a great amount. So I really think that Emma Frost will be just like an MVP here. And then again, Ebony Maw. I'm sure there are other options. I just don't think there's going to be many, because this might be the situation where like Invisible Woman as well might be very relevant here. And it just might be unfortunate that this is a situation where we're stuck waiting to see what our options are and having the community as a whole playtest this moving forward. But I would definitely say Ebony Maw, Emma Frost, those are two champions that I think can handle this node just by facing it head on, just by attacking in, taking the damage as something you're forced to take, the same way we handle Act 4 with Degeneration or Act 5 with any of the other nodes that force you to take damage over time, like Bane. It's something where you just have to play around it and accept that forced damage is part of the node, and it's more of a matter of how do you play around that forced damage. I don't think this is as much of a forced potion and forced revive as people are pushing it to be. I personally believe that the champion pool might be smaller, but I think there is strict counterplay to this type of node, and I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean, it does kind of prelude the fact that they did give us Emma Frost in the monthly calendar, and now we're seeing this here. Now, of course, the 3 and even the 4-star Emma Frost are not something you would bring to a higher tier alliance war, but it does kind of like show that there is some consideration, because now you can at least test it and see how it handles. So that being said, that's my thoughts on Psychic Thorns. I think, at least at the moment, I think this node isn't broken. I don't think it busts the path for path 3. I think there's ways to play around it, even if there's not very many. But that said, I'll talk to you later.